Sponsored by Brilliant. Go to brilliant.org/vector to end your day a little smarter every day. Samsung has just announced 3 new Galaxy S20 phones. And yeah, there are a few things I hope Apple steals for the next iPhone. I'm Rene Ritchie, and this is Vector. Now, back in the stone ages of smartphones, I used to joke that Nokia didn't have any silicon or machine learning, so they just hung big glass on the back of pretty much everything and captured it all optically. Apple didn't have glass or servers, so they used big silicon on everything, doing it all in the image signal processor. And Google had no idea what phone you were using, so they just sucked up everything into the cloud and auto-awesomed it on their big old servers. So we've come a long way since then, and most phones now use a combination of better optics, better image signal processors, and better machine learning. But some companies still do some of them way more than others. Google still just crushes the algorithms, everything from segmentation masking to super res zoom, which works similarly to Google's HDR Plus pipeline and Apple's Smart HDR pipeline. Basically, it takes a stack of photos all within an incredibly short period of time, in this case differentiated by the shaking of your hand or a simulation thereof, and then grinds through them and produces a single image with all the best color and detail information. At the same time, Google seems to have an irrational hatred for good optics. Every year they put out a new pixel saying, who needs a camera bump, or optical stabilization, or a telephoto, or an ultra-wide angle, only to figure out that yes, they need exactly that the very next year. So as amazing as super res zoom is, it's limited by commodity cameras. Huawei and now Samsung have taken the opposite approach. Because their machine learning algorithms are nowhere nearly as learned as Google's, they've gone all in on big optics, even and now especially for zoom. As anyone with a zoom lens knows, they're long and there's just no way to stick them on the back of a phone without them sticking out like a cannon from the back of those phones. So unless you fold them sideways, that is. Yeah, sideways, and then use mirrors to bend the light straight again, front and back. That's what Huawei did with the periscope zoom, and it's what Samsung is doing now with their new space zoom. Why not Galaxy Zoom? No idea. Couldn't tell you. Since zoom is one of the few dedicated camera features Apple hasn't really addressed, not since the 2-time optical zoom on the iPhone 7, it's something I'd love to see them tackle in the next iPhone. Doing it in a similar way to Google just makes the most sense to me. Again, Apple already has a smart HDR pipeline that could be adapted to computational zoom the same way Google adapted HDR Plus to super res zoom. It provides a lot of the benefits of optical zoom without taking up a ton of space inside the device, space which is simply always at a huge premium. But Apple also goes several extra more miles than Google when it comes to camera hardware. Their strength recently has been mixing really good optics with really good silicon and topping it off with really good machine learning. So I would personally prefer to see some periscope-like hardware in the next iPhone along with some super zoom style software. That way I could just take photos and videos of sports, keynotes, and trips right off my dedicated camera list. 12 megapixels is how many the iPhone 11 Pro's wide-angle, telephoto, and ultra-wide-angle cameras have. Google's Pixel 4 uses 12 megapixels for the main wide-angle as well, but goes to 16 megapixels for the telephoto. That's just currently the best compromise, the best balance between quantity and quality that they've managed to come up with in the post-megapixel wars world. Samsung's S20 Ultra stays with 12 megapixels for the ultra-wide, but escalates rapidly from there with 48 megapixels for the telephoto and 108 megapixels for the wide-angle. Now, it's a complicated subject. Oftentimes, companies go higher megapixels simply by chopping up the sensor into smaller and smaller pixels, which means they take in less light than they would have otherwise, and all you get is more of less. Worse picture quality, not better. To compensate, Samsung is pixel binning, or recombining all those many smaller megapixels into bigger, fewer ones again, hoping to get something more than the sum of their tiny little parts. In the S20's case, it can use 9 times pixel binning to squeeze those 108 megapixels down to 12 megapixel photos. They're also using a 1/1/3 sensor, which as camera phones go is enormous, and a quad Bayer filter. That means the pixels are color filtered, red, green, blue, and green, because the eye is more sensitive to green, so there's twice as many greens, in a 2x2 grid. So the full number of them can be used in brighter light, for example, or the color filters can be binned or interleaved down for better HDR or low light. All that to say, we're getting to a point where the technology is there to start moving beyond 12 megapixels, especially when Apple can combine those better optics with their already very good machine learning to produce even better photos in an even wider range of conditions. Ever since Apple introduced 120Hz ProMotion displays for the iPad Pros back in June of 2017, pretty much everyone has wanted them on the iPhones. But in September of 2017, what would become the Pro line of iPhones switched to OLED displays, and back then OLED just wasn't ProMotion ready. In 2019, that started to change, with OnePlus, Asus, and even Google pushing out 90 and 120Hz OLED panels. And now, Samsung, which thus far has been fabricating the OLED panels Apple designs for the iPhone Pros, has gone to 120Hz as well. Of course, like with pixel counts, refresh rates are only one of the quantitative aspects of panels, and that's not even getting into the qualitative aspects yet. So you have to power the 120Hz, which probably means dual processor interface lanes, and unless you can pay that off with an equal and opposing increase in efficiency, bigger batteries to maintain battery life as well. Currently, Samsung is shipping the S20 at 2K and 60Hz. If you flip on 120Hz, Samsung is reducing resolution to 1080p to maintain battery life. And that's fine. Historically, Samsung has been far more willing to offload display management to customers, down to things as arcane as color management. But Apple, not so much. So if the iPhone Pro is to go ProMotion, I expect it will go there fully. No such switch. And that means Apple will have to figure out how to pay for it while maintaining battery life in an iPhone-sized package. And with that kind of stuff that involves power and experience, Apple tends to be just intractably conservative at times, regardless of how much rage it produces in the sizzling spec community, or of course, how much the vast majority of people who buy won't even notice, like they don't notice less than 1080p when it's really, really good quality less than 1080p. If Apple can't do that, make it work just transparently, I expect we won't see ProMotion on the iPhone until they can. But if they can, I'd love to see it, and soon, because 120Hz has the huge advantage of being divisible by 60, 30, and 24. And as much as high frame rate interface in gaming is great, 24 frame per second video is just what it's meant to be. One of the big rumors for last year was reverse inductive charging. In other words, the ability to put something like AirPods on the back of your iPhone to transfer power from the phone to the pod. Now, I've heard that this was never actually in the production plans for last year, but that doesn't mean it won't ever be. Of course, taking power from a device as important as our phone and inefficiently transferring it to a device as dependent as our AirPods isn't something most people should do most of the time. But if your phone is full and your AirPods near empty, or your friend or family member's phone is near empty, and you can give them that little bit of power in a pinch, then that's a good feature to have when and if you need it. And yeah, I'd say the same about the Apple Watch, but Apple didn't go with vanilla Qi charging when they designed it. It's based on Qi, but Apple tweaked it to charge better and faster than what was available back then. Apple would also need to stuff more coils into the iPhone to make inductive charging both outy and inny. And in this video, I'm already overstuffing it with periscope cameras and bigger sensors and extra process lanes and bigger batteries. But hey, rumor has it Apple is moving to larger Pro models this year anyway, so who knows? Well, besides everyone hooked into Brilliant, that is. Specifically, Brilliant's new Algorithm Fundamentals course. Start with simple drag and drop exercises to get you thinking like a computer scientist about how algorithms are structured. Learn big O, conditionals, loop arrays, and how to put them together into common algorithms for searching, for sorting. Just everyone sign up so you can all learn and make us even better computational cameras, and soon. Brilliant is a problem-solving based website and app with a hands-on approach with over 60 interactive courses in math, science, and computer science. It puzzles you, surprises you, and expands your understanding of the modern world. And all of Brilliant's courses have storytelling, code writing, interactive challenges, and problems to solve. The best thing you can do in 2020 is invest in your STEM skills. So go to brilliant.org/vector and finish your day a little smarter every day. Thanks, Brilliant, and thanks to all of you for supporting the show. So that's what I'd love to see the iPhone 12 take from the Galaxy S20 Ultra. But now, I'd love to hear from you. Hit like if you do, subscribe if you haven't already, it really helps out the channel. Super zoom that bell gizmo so YouTube will actually tell you when new shows go live, and then hit up the comments and let me know. Thanks for watching, see you next video.